So, welcome to this next video. We're continuing 1.1.2 because that last video was getting kind of too long for, for wanting to do more in it. Here we're going to talk a little bit about errors. And you'll often hear people that have taken computer science courses in the past that it didn't click for them, they didn't like it. This is where they'll complain the most. And it's like, it's just sad that, this is a place where people get caught up. Python's a great language because it tries to reduce errors and stuff like that, but you're working with a computer, so you have to be explicit and specific, but it's really not that big of a deal. Once you learn how to manage errors and, kind of figure things out, it really shouldn't be that big of a deal. So far, we only know one command, which is how to make a rectangle. You'll notice that there's a whole bunch of parts to that, right? I have to write rectangle. It was a capital R. I have to start a parentheses and then put the X, Y, width, and height in there, and then I had to close the parentheses. I needed commas between each new value in there. If any of these things are wrong, by the way, your program will not run. And so this is where, like I said, a bunch of people will bounce off of programming immediately, and I'm trying to just introduce it to you nicely in a way that you're like, all right, I can handle that. That's not that bad. Rectangle is this special command, and it's to make a rectangle, but if I typed out the whole word rectangle, the computer's not going to recognize that. It only knows, right? You're not talking to another person where just like you can abbreviate and they'll get you. You're talking to a computer, so you got to be specific. If I say I want to make a rectangle and I type out the word rectangle and I try to run it, we'll get our very first error here. So the error will happen, give you a little like red, warning, the program will not run, and the error message will pop up in front of your canvas. And the program's going to try its best to say what's wrong. It does a pretty good job a lot of the time, but sometimes it'll give you a line number and it's not quite the right line. Other times it'll be like one line away or, one line afterwards or something like that. But it does a pretty good job of kind of pointing you generally in the direction. So here it says, an error occurred. Here's the stack trace. All that means is like, here's like, our message to you about the error. And it's saying, all right, the error we found was on line 2. This is the line that was an error. And they're saying it's a name error. The name rectangle is not defined. I don't know what you mean when you say rectangle. And so that's the computer telling you that. And you have to be like, oh, duh, right. The computer doesn't know when I say rectangle, it wants to make a rectangle. I have to fix this to make it say rect, because that's the command that it understands for making rectangles. If I run it again now, so notice, right, it was on line 2. That was the exact error. It did a pretty good job of telling us where it was. If I run it now, it's back to being okay. Now let's say you're typing quickly and you accidentally make this a lowercase r and try running it. It's going to throw another error and it's going to be like, hey, line 2 again, buddy. I don't know what this is. Name RECT with a small r. I don't know what that means, mister. Please tell me like what you're trying to code. I'll do my best to code, to run the program for you. The computer doesn't know lowercase r. Rect means that you want to make a rectangle. You have to be very specific and detail oriented. So you just have to be like, oh, okay, wait, where was the error? Line 2, rectangle. I said to make it a rectangle. And this is where you just have to like understand the commands well enough and go one letter at a time and be like, oops, it's supposed to be an uppercase R. So let me fix that on line 2, make it an uppercase R. Again, we're good. It'll run again. It will freak out if you don't have a parentheses correct. It's going to make it a little bit weirder, where it's going to say, hey, invalid syntax on line 3. It did its best to tell you where it was. Our error. So you're going to go look at line 3 first for the error. Then you look at line 3 and you're like, capital RECT, X, comma, Y, comma, width, comma, height. I got all my parentheses. It looks good. Well, it's not line 3. Look near line 3 and you'll notice, all right, on line 2, rect, parentheses, X, comma, Y, comma, width, comma, height. Oops, I never closed the parentheses. You always need to make sure, and this is a place where it's easy to make a little typo, anytime you open a parentheses, and hopefully you notice it, it will show the parentheses that it's trying to close with. Anytime you have an open parentheses, you got to make sure that it has a matching close parentheses. Always, always, always. So that's another place you can mess it up. If you don't include a comma, even just one, or maybe you don't include all these commas, it's going to freak out again. It'll be like, I don't know. Invalid syntax just means like you typed something in wrong. It can't even make a guess at what you did because it was just like, I don't know. What are you doing? The computer's freaking out. It did find correctly, though, line 2. And it's like, I think it happened. It even gives you a little arrow. Like, I think it happened somewhere around here. This is where I have an issue a little bit. And you're going to look and be like, oh, right, I forgot my commas. And you just got to make sure to put your commas. If you miss one comma, still, it will not run. But notice it updated. It's like, hey, I was running fine. I found that, comma 50. I think there's something wrong here. And then you're like, oh, shoot, I forgot my comma there. So, you know, we'll see more errors as I do my videos. You'll see me making errors. They're not that big of a deal once you kind of like get the flow and really remember. And maybe you want to make a little flashcard, little index cards to be like, all right, or like a reference page to say rectangle, capital R, X, Y, width, height with commas. Eventually, I promise you, as we keep going forward, you'll just like start doing this quickly and you won't be freaking out by it. You won't be as freaked out by the errors eventually. So yeah, errors happen where the program will not run, and you just got to make sure to check every tiny little detail, but you don't have to check the whole thing because it will tell you approximately, you know, which line, give or take 1 or 2, go above, go below a little bit to figure out where that line is. That's all I got for you. I'll see you next time. Soon, whenever. I don't know. Peace.